It's live. Yes, it's live now. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this launch of the working group on AI for media and live entertainment. My name is Deborah Schoenmakers, and I'm very, very pleased to co-lead this work group. I'm a business manager at Twist. Twist is the audiovisual cluster of Wallonia. So it's my duty and pleasure today to moderate this session here with Bart Bex that I will introduce you later on. I will also have the difficult but unavoidable task of being the timekeeper for all the speakers. So I will inform you when needed, when your time is over. I will also ask the audience and the people in the public to write their question, to tell that this, and to write a question on YouTube, because this session is recorded and is live, and we will at the end of the session, we will answer to your question. The speakers will answer to your question. So thank you very much, Nathanael, to host our working group today. When I first started working on AI, one of the first things that I read is that, and that I was particularly surprised about, is that our global objective at European level with the use of AI is to build an inclusive and desirable future together. That is why the launch of this working group is so important for us. So beyond the understanding of the technological aspects and its challenges, how we, the actors of audiovisual sector, can support the objectives of living all together, social cohesion, and of course, peace. Such an important goal in those times. So first of all, let's have a clear understanding of all those issues. What are we talking about when we talk about AI, media, fake news, and data collection, data consumption? What does it mean, all of that? What does it mean? If AI anticipates, regulates, or manipulates my deep thoughts, how can I be a free human? You know, this is one of the questions that I asked myself when I was reading about AI. Well, we will have all answers to this question today. It is with great pleasure that I will introduce you to our famous guests. They all have a great passion for AI, and they will talk from their different perspectives: journalists, researchers, industrial, and creative. They will share their experience and their concrete understanding of AI. So first, let me give the floor to Nathanael, who's hosting this session in this whole week. Thank you, Nathanael.
Thank you, Deborah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so you have my slide, huh? So
yes.
So it's really my pleasure to have a few words about the European AI Week and AI for Belgium. And I will just remind you what is it about, what we talk about launching a new working group. So maybe you can go to the next slide and the next one. So yeah, you know that we have a coordinated plan at the European level. And to shortly said, there are two main messages. The first one is we have to build trustworthy AI. We can discuss a long times of what it means, but it means that using AI in a trustworthy way is things that are based on the European values. It's not the way it is done in China, neither the way it is done in the US, simply said. The second thing is no country is big enough, neither France, neither UK, neither Germany, to face this global race without collaboration at the European level. And this image comes from a paper of Omar Mohout saying there is no technical place in Europe. We have to collaborate. And that's also true for Belgium. So next slide. We have to collaborate among the different silos, among public sector, private sector, academia, and civil society. We have to collaborate between Flanders, Brussels, Wallonia, with European perspective and global perspective from the beginning. And if you see, every country in Europe has set up its own national coalition, even if there is strong regional plan or regional initiative in the different countries. So we have in Belgium, AI for Belgium, and we are not technology push, we are technology optimists, but we want people and organization benefit from this transition that happens very rapidly. And we have a specific focus on the ethical and legal aspects. So the ambition of AI for Belgium is to support the regional plan and to position Belgium at the international level. And organizing this European AI Week with more than 35 countries, with more than 99 events, is a way Belgium can also play in the building of the European AI Alliance. As you know, we are very concerned with the place of women in tech, women in digital, and I promise to talk about Margaret Hamilton for a few seconds. So next slide, please. So this is the role of AI for Belgium. So simply said, it's the Observatory of AI for Belgium. We do consultation at the national level with the region. We maintain the agenda of activities. We provide bottom-up approach that is really important, insight for the policy support. We are also the contact with some of the European initiatives. And we are the organizer with the region of this AI Week. Next slide. So this is all based on an open ecosystem with strong values. So we share and give, we are inclusive, we have an entrepreneurial mindset, breaking the silo, as I've always said, focus on ethical, human-centric aspects. And this is how the ecosystem lives and builds what it is today. Next slide. Maybe the most important one. So we have already 13 working groups, and so media is the last one. So we do organize the things in a matrix way. In the vertical, you have some specific sector or subject, AI for Gov, for good, industry, health, energy, the societal challenges, and now we launch AI for media and live entertainment. But we have also transversal group that address big challenge, societal challenge, ethics and law, future of work and skills. The data governance, cybersecurity and infrastructure are also technical working group that are transversal. So today, AI for media was born, and today it's also Deborah's birthday. So I think we can say that. Next slide. I think I'm done. So this is the KPI of AI for Belgium. We can discuss about that, but that's not so important. So yeah, we act like a hub. We publish paper. We make people collaborate more. We have our own projects, and some of the projects were presented during the AI Week. Some of the projects are aimed at being shared at the European level. We do international partnerships. That is all the view of the coordinated plan and the European Alliance on AI. Make all the countries, all the coalition collaborate together and make the citizen also participate to this debate. Next slide. Yeah, okay, that's maybe the most important when we talk about artificial intelligence. In fact, we are talking about the people, and these are the people of last year Belgian AI Week, and this year we have 450 people for more than 35 countries. So it's a question of human relation, human collaboration, collective intelligence, and preparing the future together. That's all for me. Yeah, I can go on if you want.
Thank you so much. No, Nathanael, it's fine.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I can discuss. Yeah, I don't know if I have time, but this. Okay, OECD, European Commission are talking about this initiative. Some papers, also the ministers are involved. Next slide. I would like to stress that tomorrow we have also big event. So with France, with the French presidency of the European Union, we do organize the Génération AI 2030 event that is focused on under 40 researchers, but also entrepreneurs to collaborate at the European level. We have also a cultural views on AI from Asia, Africa, and North America. We have also the Break the Bias Women in AI event with an outstanding panel. But these are only 3 out of 20 events that will appear and happen tomorrow. I think now I'm really done now.
Yes, many thanks, Nathanael, for the introduction, for hosting our working group, the last of those 13 working group, and for the good wishes for my birthday. Thank you so much. I'm almost 20 now, so thank you. I'm gonna now give the floor to Bart Bex, who is the co-lead with me of the working group, and he's gonna talk about the global challenges and the evolution of the industry, how AI is key to the innovation and why AI is so important to the media sector. Before giving the floor to Bart, I would like to thank him and also to give a few words about who he is. He is the chair of the famous website Euractiv that many of you know. He's also the chair of eHealth Venture and a member of the board of the European Innovation Council. So thank you, Bart. The floor is yours. And I will change the PowerPoint.
Okay.
Ah, that's me.
Happy birthday, Deborah.
Yes, thank you so much. So this is our working group. Do you see my slides?
Yep.
Yeah. And this is you.
Okay, yeah. So I'm Bart. You can go to the next slide. In terms of introduction, so we have a really interesting panel of speakers, and I have a couple of slides to introduce basically the impact on AI on media, or the changes that media is going through. Next slide. There's a lot of trends. This slide is often shown as all the mega trends that are happening in the world. But I think if we look back over the last weeks or years, there's I think a couple of elements that are really important. First of all, everything related to COVID. It has meant a drastic digitization of the entire society. And secondly, what's happening now in Ukraine also reveals a lot about how important media can be. And media is always a sign of also society and democracy. And the fact that we are confronted with so much misinformation and inability of people to be aware of what's happening indicates again how important media are. If you look at, it's often said that there's a lot of platforms that are no longer in, let's say, a local or European hands. We often speak about energy platforms. I think we have to rethink completely how energy sufficiency will work. That's a debate on nuclear energy. There's a debate on which gas or what kind of energy sources to be used. But I think that's as present as ever. There's, of course, everything related to financial streams. Also, that today is one of the platforms of financial streams are become global, but sometimes we do not have enough impact on it. And thirdly is all platforms related to distribution of services, but also content and media. The fact that we rely on so many distribution platforms that we do not control brings us into what we currently the difficulty of GAFAs, where Europe basically has lost all its sovereignty in terms of media distribution platforms. And that's something really to tackle. If we go to the next slide, we see that that said, that if we look at from the commercial side on the global entertainment and media market, that's a really positive trend. So it has been, except 2020, it has been continuous growth. the subdomains, you see that the total shareholder return, as they call it, is media is one of the highest ever. We are quite aware that video games and most digital media and entertainment have been growing a lot, but also in terms of publishing, we could say that the entire publishing and news segment of media has reinvented itself thanks to often premium or subscription-based revenue, which brings a completely new kind of predictability to the media sector, also allowing them to invest much more in the future. Next slide is, however, if you look at investment or how that investors look at media, you can see here the smallest of the bars is basically media at the time. There's been a huge investment in everything that is healthcare, software as a service, IT, e-commerce related, but over the last years, it was quite difficult in media. And if you look at the global ecosystem, a lot of news brands have disappeared and media platforms have completely changed over the period. But now we see that there's a different sentiment. Media has become a very interesting domain again, and basically the tech innovation and combined with the business model changed that aspect completely. Take us to the next slide. What does it mean related to AI? They've asked the C-levels, so the leadership team of media, in what do they think about AI? And basically 2/3 said, well, we do not have an AI strategy yet. I think that's quite a delay, because in some industries that percentage is a lot higher, but it's also a great opportunity because there's already been a lot of learnings on AI and we can implement them directly into the media domain. On the next slide, you see that if you now ask the people active or persons active in media, what do they think is the most enabling technology, and here specifically on journalism, there suddenly you see that artificial intelligence is number one by far, much faster than devices, interfaces, 5G or other. 70% believe that AI will have a tremendous impact on the job or the domain of news and journalism. The next slide, you see that this is, I think it starts all with this. AI as a domain is growing tremendously. If you look at one of the interesting elements to look at is AI funding. So the financing of startups and scale-ups. And you see that in 2021, this investment has doubled. So globally, it is now more than 66 billion, while last year it was 32 billion. Media is still a quite small part of it. You see the two big domains are healthcare and fintech, because the use cases have been directly linked to creating value of it. But on the next slide, you see that you see that AI is, and you can go to the next one, Deborah. You see that the publishers have been pushing their model and allowing investment in AI as well. The slide here shows that the business models of media have changed drastically. And that is really building a strong fundamental, much in line with software companies. And if you look at most valuable companies in the world, they are mostly built on recurring revenues and some kind of elements which have now found their way into the media business as well. I always like to show this slide because it's often set as one of the enablers of having more media time of individuals. And it's basically one of the opportunities is that once that this is the curve of growing autonomous vehicles. And one of the usages that people will have is that people will use more media in that time. There is an increasing number of people who will not be focused on driving, but who will be focused on consuming news and videos and all together. So that's one of the growth ways that is often mentioned. Yes, next one. And then to here you see the way that AI, and here I've taken one of the elements, which is journalism, but we'll come next to a couple of others where you see that AI is now clearly finding their use cases and being used. Here you have 10 examples from personalized distribution to automatic transcripting to detecting fake news and misinformation, all elements which a couple of years ago were still being developed, but now are clearly elements that are in use and being used by media companies all over the world. Now we come to the last part, but I'll quickly talk about it now, but we come back about that, which is the agenda of today, and also the breakthroughs. But I suggest that, Terry, that we come back to it a bit later in the presentation when we've seen an overview of all the other speakers.
Perfect. Thank you, Bart. So now let's go to our next keynote speaker, Thierry Dutoit, our special guest from Mons, who has a very impressive and long CV. Thierry Dutoit teaches circuit theory, signal processing and speech processing at the University of Mons. And he founded the UMons New Media Institute for Creative Technology. He leads also Digistorm portfolio of projects, which led to the creation of The Click, which is a creative innovation center in Mons and who's focusing on cultural and creative industries. In 2020, he co-created the Trail Inter-University AI Research Institute. And Thierry, today, he will explain us the links between AI and media from an academic and more technological perspective. So it's not all about algorithms on Facebook, no. You will learn much more with Thierry. Many thanks, Thierry, for sharing today your time and your knowledge. We look forward to listening to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah.
The floor is yours.
Thank you, Deborah. Bon anniversaire, Deborah.
Merci beaucoup.
We'll continue on that.
Oui.
Okay, thank you. Can you go to the next slide? So yes, I'll tell you about the things we can do and the things we cannot do in AI for media, but in AI in general also. I like very much this English wording for knowledge, which separates street knowledge from book knowledge. Street knowledge is mostly related to experience-based knowledge, things you have to learn by yourself, things you cannot be told about, while book knowledge, of course, is related to language, and these are the things that you learn about in schools. Next slide. Yes, you can go over. Yeah. And in terms of computers, in terms of machines, people have known for a long time that we should have started from street knowledge. So trying to make machines aware of the environment, trying to make machines aware of the life around them and trying to make them understand everything else. But it just didn't work at the beginning. So what people did, next slide, was to go for book knowledge-based machine learning. So that's telling machines how to solve problems. And that's what people have done by inventing computer languages, basically. And that culminated in 1997 with IBM Deep Blue, where everything done by the computer was programmed by people. So, it's a question of wording, but was the machine really intelligent? It was just doing things it had been told to do, except it could compute them much faster than the human beings. Yes, next slide. However, in 2011 or 2012, things started to change, and I like very much this picture of from Stanford University on the left. You can see an elephant, and it's playing football, and someone is sitting on it, and everything around the image has been written by machines. So as you can see, the machine understands what's on the image. It even understands that the small triangle on the top left of the image is a series of trees behind the small house. So that's not even recognizing, that's guessing mostly. So that's what machine can do today, and perception-oriented neural nets. On the other hand, and that's the image on the right, they can also do interaction-oriented AI using deep reinforcement learning, and that means they can make lots of decisions very quickly by interacting with the environment, and this culminated with things like the robots, the Boston Dynamics robots you can see on the image, or with the Google car, all these automatic robots that we have right now. Okay. And so the loop between perception and action is very important for learning things from street knowledge. It's called biofeedback, and that's how we basically learn things. So a machine which is perception-oriented compliant and then interaction-oriented compliant, if these two things are looped, it can become somehow intelligent, just as a cat or a dog. I mean, my dog does exactly that. It recognizes the environment, and it can walk and avoid things on the path and do many things by controlling its muscles. What we did more, next slide, is that in 2013, people started understanding, computers started understanding languages. I mean, understanding. What is understanding? It's not easy to define. Well, they actually started to have a feeling of how words could be organized together. And that was obtained by something called word embeddings, which automatically maps all the words in a language to vectors in a high dimensional space. And this mapping is very astonishing because once the mapping is done automatically, you can compute distances between, for example, the words men and woman, and between uncle and aunt and king and queen. And these distances and these orientation of the vectors between the words are somehow identical. So if you go from kings to king and to queen and to queens, you can see on the plot that the vectors that correspond to these movements in the high dimensional space are somehow identical, which is very astonishing. And that was the first time that computers started feeling really what language was about without having to have linguists tell them about languages. So there's no linguistic input from human beings in this discovery. It's just statistical distribution of words, which enables the computers to do that. Yeah, next slide. So what we cannot do now, I have 4 slides of things we cannot do or things we could do better. A lot of research is being done now on something called trusted AI, which implies, of course, computers being able to explain what they do. Right now, they do things, they achieve to do things most of the time. Sometimes they fail. When they fail, they don't know that they fail, and they cannot explain why they fail. And that somehow is what I call going from street knowledge to book knowledge. So computers are aware of things, they can do things, and now we would like them to tell us about what they do. So they should express their knowledge in terms of languages. They should be able to express their knowledge to us, humans, but also to other computers, to exchange knowledge. That's not feasible right now. Yes, next slide. Another research area is what is called hybridation, and that's about mixing data-based models with human knowledge-based models. So mixing street knowledge and book knowledge, basically. So it's really a mixing between the two. This is not possible right now, or it's very hard. So it's somehow two different worlds. You have the world of data science, which performs automatic learning from data, lots of data. And then you have knowledge-based science, which comes from humans. So, humans have accumulated science for a long time, and mixing the two is really hard. So that's still an open question. Yes, next slide. Third area, which is hard to do right now, is called human-AI interaction. Of course, we all know that for the past 10 years, there has been a huge success, a huge increase of success in terms of speech recognition, for instance, speech synthesis, image recognition. But still, it's not so easy because, for example, there are still many areas in which human to AI or AI to human or AI to humans to AI interaction is weak. For instance, okay, we can have, although we have expressive speech synthesis and robust speech recognition, there are still many areas in which we have problems like how do we recognize sketches? How do we create brain-computer interface to increase the bitrate between humans and computers? I like to say that the bitrate between humans is still limited and has always been limited to 50 bits per second. When I speak, when everyone speaks, it's only 50 bits per second of information which is produced. And that's very, very limited. So at some point we'll need to go further, and this can be done maybe by brain-computer interfaces. So human AI interaction can also be increased in terms of naturalness. For instance, we all know that when you speak to a computer, you have to adapt somehow the way you speak. They are not completely robust yet. They don't have the same knowledge about life than we have. So we have to adapt to them, and we would like to avoid that. We would like to go straight talking to computers as we talk to people, basically. This is still not so easy. And next slide, final slide. Okay, the last slide is about porting AI to embedded platforms, which is making AI lightweight technology. So this is needed for decreasing selling prices of AI-based components, to decrease energy costs, of course, and this is very important today, to avoid the need for data transfers to clouds. That's why it's called edge computing. Most of the computing for AI should be done very close to the application and not sent to clouds because of privacy issues mostly. And then to decrease the amount of data required for training, because if you have a smaller model, then you can hope to need smaller data to train the model. And these are all open areas for research. Thank you. I think it's the end of the talk. Okay, thanks. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Thierry.
Yeah.
So many challenges ahead. Thank you very much. It was really fascinating. Let's go and jump to creativity now with Sven de Koning. He's our next guest, and Sven is the CEO of Chase, based in Ghent, if I'm not mistaken. Chase is a storytelling agency, and Sven will speak about the impact of AI on the creator economy. Sven, we are very happy to listen to you.
Okay, thank you, Deborah, and bon anniversaire aussi. And thanks for having me as well, the whole team. I'll try to start to share my screen, just having a look if that's working. Because can you see my slides right now? Just checking. There we go. So what I am going to talk to you today about is not, let's say, not the technical side of things, but more on the side of the people who are active within the platforms and within the AI-driven environments of today. And I would want to talk about the impact of AI, but before I do that, maybe it's good that I just propose who we are and what we do. So to start, Chase is a community of about 1,000 digital creators. We mainly operate in Flanders and in Brussels. And we started out as a nonprofit supporting young digital creators. But that easily turned into a postgraduate course at our Chase Academy in collaboration with some university colleges, where people of Facebook, Google, and so on come and train the digital creators of tomorrow. But as you also already told, Deborah, we still need to, let's say, find the buck to get a decent living. So we we also run an experienced marketing agency by now. These are some of the brands we are working for as digital storytellers. And maybe interesting to tell is that outside of the, let's say, the larger consumer brands you have seen, we have been active for the last 2 years also in the crypto and NFT and Web3 space overall, which are, let's say, the more upcoming sectors within media in general. But let's take you, what is the creator economy? Because of course, media is a kind of a broad field, and the creator economy is a part of it. Just to give you an overview, at the moment within let's say the Western world, you have about 50 million independent content creators, curators, community builders, who have turned their passion of storytelling and turned their passion into stories and then turned it into a business. And when we talk about the creator economy, that's what I am talking about. Just to give you an overview, we're speaking in the Western world of about 2 million people who can live on a day-to-day basis on a professional level of their creative exploits, and let's say 47 million earn a living, but not a huge amount. But they have turned their passion also into businesses. But how do they make money, these digital creators? They can do it by getting revenue shares from the platforms they are on. Very often, I suppose most of you have heard about social influencers who are being paid by brands to promote a brand on their personal content channels. They have been developing their own products or have been placing other products. A lot of them, especially in gaming, are being tipped by their fans who join their live streams, and a lot more business models have been out there to make it possible for them to make a living out of their passion. But of course, how do these creators, how are they impacted, or how is their content impacted by AI at the moment? In the first place, of course, there are a lot of already AI-supported tools that already help these creators make better content. So for instance, automatic translation, automatic text creation, automatic moderation and content development, automatic or AI-supported research. AI has already made it easier for a lot of digital creators to make to turn to make better stories, make it easier, make them quicker, and AI has been helping out quite a lot and will be helping out a lot in the future. But let's say AI has also had an important impact on digital culture in general. This is just a slide I took from a YouTube channel which is called Genius. It's about music, there is one platform that has the best AI-driven algorithm at the moment, or one social media platform that has the best AI-driven algorithm, then it is TikTok. And TikTok has been taking the social media world by storm and has been taking popular culture by storm also over the last 2 or 3 years. And if you would go over the charts at the moment in Belgium or in other countries, I think we could say that about half of the tracks who are actually in the charts or who are back in the charts have been created or pushed by these AI-driven or by the AI-driven algorithm of TikTok. In the same way, AI has also been shaping digital culture through these creators for instance, on the level of video formats. This is just an overview on what each different social media platform is expecting of creators to make. And as the AI and the algorithm of the social media platforms says, for instance, okay, on YouTube, if you upload a video that is longer than 10 minutes, or if, for instance, on Facebook, if you upload a video that is longer than 3 minutes, the AI and the algorithm will support these videos to find an easier audiences. And this means that all these digital creators out there, they will adapt their content or the cultural message they are creating to these algorithms. So in this way, the technology is also defining culture at the moment. Of course, AI is also, again, because these a lot of these digital creators are active on, in the first place, a lot of these social media platforms. It also defines new customer relationships, because in the past, as well, for digital creators as for media brands, it's been about reaching out to as many customers as possible and making sure that you reach as many people as possible, and then make them go further and maybe turn them into a different type of customer. But as the algorithms or the AI behind the algorithms of the social media platforms is growing stronger, growing better, making it easier to define who is really interested in content and whatnot, it also means that for a lot of digital creators who, for instance, are creating content about bikes, and if they want to sell more bikes through their channels, they need to adapt their message, and they focus more on reaching out to a specific niche rather than to a bigger or wider audiences. And they try to adapt again their content to these goals. And again, over here, technology and AI is driving culture. Of course, for for digital creators, it is hard work, and there are also some issues out there. We have seen in the introduction as well that there are there are issues with a lot of issues on social media platforms. This is just a stupid thing to say. Okay, it's hard work to be a content creator. But one of the main issues at the moment has been that, well, you can see the revenues that have been coming in different AI-driven platforms like on Alphabet or in Meta. The revenues have been growing on a steady level, and the AI also makes it possible to get a bigger chunk of the advertising spend people are getting of the market inside the media market. But it doesn't mean that the digital creators who actually create the content and who actually tell the stories actually get paid for that. In many cases, they don't get any of the revenue, or maybe none of the revenue of these of the income of the platforms they are active on. Also, one of the issues is that people have lost quite a lot of lost trust in some of the stories they have been seeing on these social media platforms, for instance. This is just a simple example, but overall in the world, this tendency is out there. So it's hard for these digital creators to keep their audiences close to them and to keep trust, because of the fact that they need to reach out to their audiences on specific platforms. This is just a small overview on what these platforms are also asking of them to create. For instance, and I talked to you about the algorithm and how they are adapting their message towards the algorithms on the social media platforms. If you would follow the specific recommendations of every platform out there in order to keep your brand as a digital creator alive and keep your channels growing, this is the amount of work you need to put in to create and reach out to your audience in an optimized level. So below you can see it's about 71 hours. That's quite a lot. So it is hard work for all these influencers and social creators to create all this content, but still they need to do this on a day-to-day basis. This gives them quite a lot of stress, quite a lot of problems. And this is some overview of this is a slide I got from research about creator burnout. So digital creators are suffering from creator burnout quite a lot at the moment because of the high demands they are getting from these algorithms. And the main, let's say, the main cause of their burnout is simply algorithm changes. So if platforms decide to change their algorithm, and if the AI supports what their algorithm, what the algorithm is demanding from them, it gives them a lot of stress and creates very often burnout. So even very popular YouTubers, Instagrammers, and so on, also a lot of them, they are having problems with burnout or energy to keep because they have to keep their channels alive on a constant basis in order to make some money. So just what we see happening right now is also the same evolution you can see from how media companies are trying to play these social media algorithms also. A lot of these digital creators, they try to pull their communities, their audiences towards their personal platforms, towards maybe even towards actual in real life meetings as well. And they try to escape the pressure of a lot of the algorithm or AI based algorithms are giving to them. And a lot of them are turning into blockchain, which brings us, of course, to the topic of our conference for today. Because there are a lot of new opportunities coming up where there could be a better future for creatives in general, or creators in general, which is Web3. The web that has, let's say, the next generation in web. 10 years ago, there used to be Web 2 when we talked about the social web. The Web 3 is the web in metaverse and also where blockchain is sort of a backbone behind the new type of internet. And of course, one of the first great opportunities for digital creators is the metaverse or multiverses in general. In the first place, of course, because there are a lot of players who are active inside this. This is a picture of Decentraland, for instance, which is a digital country where you can actually buy your digital space or can buy. And in Decentraland, a lot of, let's say, embassies have been opened by official countries. H&M has opened a shop in Decentraland and so on. And in these environments, there are a lot more opportunities to tell stories on a, let's say, less AI and algorithm based consensus. In short, creators can be free over here. But of course, what is important is that if they want to gain their own freedom or follow their passion, it's important to keep in mind that they have Web3 has been offering them some new ownership models as well. Of course, the first one is basic tokenization. This is just a screen pic of Rally, which is a cryptocurrency platform for creative communities, as you can see, where digital creators, if they want to start their own cryptocurrency token, they can just go to their platform, and here they start a token, and they can start trading their cryptocurrency tokens with their community, and even and maybe offering specific services in exchange for this cryptocurrency token. There are a number of platforms who are making let's say, the bridge between crypto and these digital creatives. But this is a very important one. Another, of course, you have these tokens. These are tradable, but you also have NFTs, and I hope most of you have heard about NFTs, which are non-fungible tokens. So NFTs are, let's say, the digital replacement of what used to be a scarce product in the 20th century. So you used to buy a record, you used to buy a book, you used to buy one specific example or a piece of art. And NFTs are the means to buy a digitally unique product. This is the Bored Ape Yacht Club. Even Mark Zuckerberg has been buying them, and these NFTs have been growing rather strong, and a lot of these. This is a specific community where people are also. Sorry, just they are within the community. All the IP is shared. So if you buy one NFT, for instance, you can use the brand also to start your pop bands like Universal Music has been doing, or you can do it to start a gaming arcade, which has also happened. And people are sharing the IP and of these NFTs and forming creative communities and forming different types of media businesses that none have been around over the last years. This is, for instance, also a great opportunity, or this is a good example. This is Bert, who he's an artist called Musketon from Hasselt. He used to be a graphic designer who sold his prints online on his Instagram channel, and he got some income out of this. But he got into the NFT world in September last year, and he made for more than 1 million in revenue already in selling digital artworks on different NFT platforms. So these are great. This is a great opportunity for any digital creator that has a community already. Of course, this is a project that we have also been pushing. NFTs also offer other utilities. In this case, there was one creative side, so that this is linked to a golf brand. They created these NFTs, and so you buy their artworks. And on the other hand, you can use their NFT to enter specific golf clubs all over the world. And again, you can see a link between one NFT that gives you digital art and different utilities, and could give you a lot more in the future. And maybe one other interesting platform or opportunity in the Web3 for creators world is a decentralized autonomous organization, or a DAO, where blockchain-based businesses have been built into digital communities or creative communities. And for instance, if one person creates a couple of videos, another does the distribution, and so on. And it's not one agency owner like me who decides who gets what of the total revenue of a project. It's the actual, it's what has been written into a smart contract on the blockchain, and it makes it possible to speed up and scale digital creativity on a very constant basis. So this is also an interesting evolution that could help digital creators in the future. So thank you very much. And if you would like to get in touch, just send me an email or send me a telegram. And back to you, Deborah.
Thank you, Sven. Thank you, Sven. I hope all of you understood everything. If you didn't, contact Sven. And now we're gonna go to France. I don't know if Cathy is in France or she's in Belgium, based in Belgium, but I will give the floor to Cathy Brem, and I'm very excited to hear her talk about her work. Cathy is the only female expert that we have today in our panel, and it is very important to highlight that women are not enough represented in the media and tech sector. So really welcome, Cathy. I'm very, very happy that you joined us. So Cathy is a media expert, and she had 15 years of experience in digital transformation for broadcaster, with a background in arts and humanities, marketing and TV production. She specialized in AI and Web3 with a strategic application for the media. She works currently at the Department of Innovation of France Télévisions, which is the French public broadcaster, and she's also the editor-chief of the blog Meta Media France Télé, exploring future journalism and media literacy. She will share her insights on the link between AI and humans. So thank you very much, Cathy, for joining us. The floor is yours. And you can have also, tell me if you need some support.
I will share the screen normally. So thank you very much, Deborah, for the introduction, and happy birthday. I will share my screen, and I'm actually in Paris, but I just flew back from South by Southwest this morning, and it was everything about Web3 and NFT and the DAO, and not so much about AI. But just let us talk still a little bit about AI now, AI for media. So those last 2 years of the global pandemic have definitely accelerated the digital transformation, both of the industries and of the people. And AI is a huge part of it. As our activities switched more and more to virtual spaces, everything synthetic has been pushed forward. So we have synthetic voices, better synthetic faces, synthetic people, synthetic movie sets, and all this prepared us for the future metaverse. In 1968, Picasso said that computers are useless. They can only give you answers, but we are not there anymore. As shown by Thierry in his introduction, machines are more and more able to learn by themselves. We have much better models now, which work quite well and get us a step closer to a more coherent content creation by AI. So what for we are using it? AI for us in media for the moment is a tool, an assistant, mostly, not so much a peer, and certainly not a manager. But we are using it for course leadership, for differentiation, and for focus, as it allows us to focus on more niche content. And why we are doing it is because people want to have experiences today. It's not just all about quality content, which is still important, but it's also about the container, which where we are diffusing our contents, and it's no more just the TV screen. There are more and more interfaces and more transparent interfaces. Perhaps tomorrow it will be a brain machine interface. There's also the context, which is important, and the citizen who wants to have more and more personalized content as he knows it from other platforms. For a long time, we are no more on the one-to-many distribution. We are more and more on the one-to-few, and perhaps tomorrow on the one-to-one distribution for media, and even also for public service media and data. And this is the heart of this intelligent machine. It allows us to better knowing and addressing our audiences, and on the other hand, also to produce much smarter. So AI is today already in the whole value chain of media. It's really present everywhere, and it holds the potential to spark momentum into an industry that is reinventing and that is obliged to reinvent itself continuously as technology is changing. Let's focus just quickly on 3 elements where AI is really important. First of all, is inspiration, where we can find content. AI is able to do really social listening, what we would never be able to do as humans, as it can watch a whole bunch of social media, detect trends, read signals, identify patterns, and categorize quite easily. So for this media, we have lots of tools we are using, which allows us really to scan and analyze large amounts of data in different languages in parallel. And those tools are more or less never tired colleagues in the newsrooms today. And you all know the Panama Papers, and more lately the Pandora Papers. Those Panama Papers would not have been possible without AI. but it was not the AI by itself. It was data share plus 400 international journalists who understand the schemes, the strawmen, the shell companies, the banks, and who were able to write a story about this. We also have more and more video content, and this video content has to be analyzed. So we had humans to do this before because we did not have a lot of video content, but today we have both our video content and user-generated content. So we have AI to help us to analyze this content and even to help us to find interesting pieces of our own archives, as did by the BBC several years ago. So for producing, we are using also AI, and as we've shown, one of the most important application is in journalism. We have now augmented journalism, and even those tools like Cyborg and Heliograph are there since 2015 in order to do automatization of commodity news, which is sports results, election results, and financial results. Today we have more and more collaboration between humans and AI, which is not always very simple and which depends also on the maturity of the newsrooms, of the different newsrooms. So we have two schools, one telling us that 90% of content will be generated by AI in 2025, but I think it's we will be more or less between 8 to 12% of the journalist task, which will be done by AI. So already in 2014, we asked the question, can we see the difference between man and machine? In 2014, it was quite simple to see the difference, but today in 2021, when The Guardian asked AI to write an essay about AI and what AI and robots will do to humans, it was much more difficult, even if also there were still journalists to pick up the most interesting bribes of what AI has written and to put it together to a coherent text and perhaps even to write some sparks. But AI helps us really to generate automatic video and to create some niche content we would not have been able to do with a TV team, which would have been sent to for instance, small sports events or regional sports events. We've seen it with Sven, the different social media where we are distributing part of our content as well as on our own platforms. They all ask for different sizes, they different formats, and so AI today helps us also to create some sort of augmented copies, not to create a video by itself, but in order to take a copy, to take the video, the original video, and to generate different versions for the different social media. As today 82% of internet traffic is video, and humans can't scale, so this really helps us to be more present where the audience is. So AI is also able to analyze scripts and to automate even a part of the story generation with perhaps a little danger in it, because it will take the most successful stories and propose us to do the same, as we've seen, for instance, the pioneer in this was Netflix with this first original series, House of Cards. They analyzed the most successful audience scripts, and so they decided to do this TV show with this specific actor. But I think it's really important also to stay a little bit more creative and not just to let choose the algorithm the most successful story. So last year we talked even about AI playing the first role in a movie, but is AI creative? Today with generative adversarial networks, AI is more and more following the process of creativity as would do perhaps an artist. as we have really two sort of algorithms which are working together or one against another, but we are still not there within the genuinely creative AI. And AI is also a very bad director still on films, as we've seen several years ago, and we did not really recreate this experience for a whole scenario. But we have today the AI song context tests, and we are perhaps a little bit more approaching, not only in music, but also in arts and films and in storytelling, what told us Ada Lovelace in 1843 already, because she told us that the engine might compose elaborate and scientific pieces of music of any degree and complexity or extent. That's what machines are doing today. But as technology is more and more perfect, our realities are more and more blurred. You all have seen this TV anchor, in China. And today we are really seeing that deepfakes are getting more and more mainstream. It's really affordable for everybody. Everybody can do it. It's deepfake. And you see the difference in the technologies between 2019, they're at the left, you're seeing some low resolution, uncanny face swap from Mark Zuckerberg. And on the right, it's just 2 years later. We have those hyper-real synthetic media, which we are able to create. And there was a whole TikTok channel made with a fake Tom Cruise. And we have also Unreal Engine, which shows us the new meta-human, which is almost more trustworthy than real humans. So those meta-humans will be there for the next metaverse, and they are creating really scary, perhaps a little bit, copies of humans. So we already are, after more than 10 years in social media, in a world which is full of fake news. We have the problem of truth, where facts are opposed to opinions, and journalists are already struggling with it. And now we see it in the war in Ukraine. That's really going very far with AI, which is on the front lines of the war. As there's a real information war led from Russia with AI bots, but also with fake and hyper-real AI bloggers. And those are new skills journalists need to develop in order to participate and to understand the information in this new environment. But as AI is able to build fake news, it's also able to detect fake news, and it's also able to detect deep fakes as it knows the structures. And deep fakes can also be used by media for create content and for create interesting content. We just have to declare that we are using it, and we have perhaps also we also need to ask the consent of the audience if we are doing this. And in that case, we can create this type of content, like this one. It's a TV show we are creating at France TV, where we are able to put to life old movie stars and to interact with them. And so first, the last one is the distribution. On the one hand, AI helps us to better distribute our content in order to make it more accessible through transcription and translation, through automatic transcription and translation. We have, for instance, this tool developed by EBU. On the other hand, naturally, there is also the personalization and the contextualization, which is really important for AI distribution. In personalization, we've seen TikTok is really good with these algorithms. The first pioneer there was still Netflix. And you also need this kind of to have a little bit the ability to use this in order to stay discovered in the era of peak TV and even of peak content. There's so much content on the internet, and we need to have some algorithms to help us to pick out the right content for us and to propose to our audience the content according to their interests. AI helps us also to be more interactive with our audiences, as shown in this example from Bandersnatch from Netflix, which created this adventure where you can create your own adventure. And AI today can now measure biomarkers that suggest a person's emotional state. So there we are also in something a little bit scary, as normally media could propose a content according to your emotional state. So there we are really pushing personalization very, very far, and one can easily imagine that what can be done with this, as we are also talking about the danger of AI micro-targeting in the metaverse. And as we all know, that today the metaverse is not extremely decentralized, but taken into hand by our old friend, the GAFAM. So we as media, and more precisely as public service media, really need to get out of the filter battle and to help people get out of the filter battle, and to have some kind of contrapound to make room for healthy differences of opinion, and also still to have some form of serendipity in this ocean of content. And so we need to find the right balance between recommendation by humans, friends, and media, and between personalization by algorithms. For this, I think to avoid all the bias we have with AI still, even if now we are really realistic about it, we need to put ethics by design in all our AI programs and all our AI projects. We need to distribute some kind of AI literacy as a mission, both in our companies and with our audiences. And we need to collaborate. We already talked about that's most important. I think we need inside our media to break the silos, multidisciplinary, inclusive teams with more women in it, collaboration with startups, research centers, and even artists, and sometimes even with our competitors. So AI plus humans will really create and help us to create an augmented intelligence. Algorithms by themselves are not able to be neither nor creative, neither really independent in interesting content creation. So we need the humans in the loop already for always in our AI projects. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Kati. It was very good to, finish on a positive statement that we will all become more intelligent thanks to technology and artificial intelligence, and thanks to more collaboration. That's why we are also here this afternoon together. Now is the time to talk about data, because we talked a lot about AI, but to have AI, we need data. So we are very grateful to have Sabri with us, who is the data expert. So let's go deep into the subject of data. Sabri is currently working at Euranova. He is the Research and Development Director of Euranova and the Chief Officer for Digazoo. And he co-founded Euranova, which is a research company monetizing knowledge and research to create competitive advantages. Sabri is a keynote speaker at many conferences in the past 10 years, and he's joining us from, I think he is now in Saudi Arabia, if I'm not wrong. He will talk about the importance of data to create innovative business models. Thank you so much, Sabri. The floor is yours.
Yes, Indeed, and thank you. Yes, indeed, I'm on business trip. Let me share my screen first. Okay, do you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think there's an issue when I share my screen. Let me share again. Sorry, I don't know why, but it says that when I share my screen, my mic is muted. And to get back to the mic, I can stop sharing my screen. That's weird, isn't it?
Sabri, do you want to send me your presentation?
I will do that, yes.
Here is my email address in the chat. A few seconds, dear public. We are dealing with a tech problem. Okay, slide sent. Seconds, dear public. We are dealing with a tech problem. Okay. Sabri, I haven't received anything for the moment. Casper, are you online?
Yes, I'm here.
Sabri, can you send it also to Casper?
Sure.
We are dealing with tech problem. Okay. Sabri, I haven't received anything for the moment. Are you online? I have the PowerPoint presentation now.
Yes, I'm here.
And can you send it also to Casper? Sorry, I haven't received anything for the moment. Are you online? I have the PowerPoint presentation now.
Yes, I'm here.
Can you send it also to Casper? Okay, do you see my screen now? Sabri, I have your PowerPoint.
Perfect.
Casper, I can hear myself like in a movie.
Shall we start?
Yes, we can start, but I think there is an issue behind.
Sorry, I have your
Casper, I hear the sound.
Perfect.
Casper, I can hear myself like in a movie.
Okay, sounds better. Okay, so let's start it. Good afternoon. So today we are going to talk about data as a driver of innovative business models and how you can think about data into creating and modifying your existing business models. Next slide, please. Yeah, can you put the next slide?
Yes, sorry. Now I hear you properly. I had an issue with the sound.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, now we are on track.
Perfect.
Which slide do
yes.
you want me to put? This one?
The second one. Yeah. Well, okay, let's start by this one. Perfect. Okay. So basically, we are specialized into data and not especially into media and entertainment. So what we propose to do here, it's starting from the ecosystem and to see what are the different interactions and what are the different parties in this ecosystem and how we can think about them creating or innovating into this kind of context. So if you think about media and entertainment, if you look at the different parties involved in that ecosystem, you can see in the next slide, the different parties indeed. You have the consumer, let's start with the website, perfect. You have the player, user, media channel for distributing your content, the venues like the theater, connected device and app, government, business enterprise, art and culture. These are basically all the parties within your ecosystem. On the next slide, so sorry for the word, but there is a lot of transition between the slides, so I will make you work a lot. On the next slide, you can see all the different interactions between these different parties. Because why? Because those parties are exchanging a lot of data in between. And why they're exchanging data for doing what? On the next slide, you can see all the actions actually by exchanging data. Well, they will consume, rule, invest, sponsor, manage, inform, entertain, and all those actions make this ecosystem working together. And at the end of the day, next slide, please. The objective of this ecosystem is to inform, to innovate, and of course, delight the consumer. But doing that, thank you, and we'll do that by offering a unique experience to human beings. And when we were talking about recommendation, that's mainly that kind of objective. We have so much data exchanging between all different those parties. We have so much value to create for offering a unique experience to each of them, to each consumer. That's there. This is really the value to create there at that in this kind of interaction. On the next slide, you can see that offering this unique experience is not only the only thing. You need to think about offering this unique experience within a wider system, and this system, well, includes all the systemic approach like ecology, health, philosophy, ethics, social security. So the real question will be how to offer this unique experience while taking into account all these contextual and systemic elements. And this is basically our job. At Uanova, we propose to help our consumer to do these kind of things. We provide services for letting this kind of actor, this kind of player, implementing this kind of unique experience. So let's talk a bit about us on the next slide, please. Yeah, next slide as well, please. So we use data to build competitive advantage for companies. And how do we do that? On the next slide, you see the three main pillars of the company. The first one is through consulting. We serve your business ambition from ideation, proof concept to the deployment in production. We have a solution incubator where we craft solutions to speed up your process. And finally, we have a research center where we explore future technology to address challenges, because we believe that we have to have a cutting edge knowledge for tackling this kind of challenge, where you see all the different models and the number of paper that is published every year for improving or for completing the state of the art. It's really important to explore all those new publications, all those new models, to be able to better recommend what will be the best kind of family of models to apply to your specific challenge. And on what topic we do that? We do that on every element of the data value chain, from the data strategy, what kind of data are you going to collect for doing what, in terms of architecture and data architecture, data engineering, applied data science and AI, of course, and all the parts linked to the deployment of your software and your models that we call DevOps here in MLOps. And training is also important. In the previous talk, we had the opportunity to see that how much education and training internally is really important. And that's part of the mission that we have, to train and to guarantee this knowledge transfer and this data and AI literacy for our customer. So let's come back to the main topic here, disrupt your business model. So it's not easy to start, actually. Where can we start when we think about disrupting business model? Well, when we speak about business model, let's keep to the basic. How today do we represent the business model? Well, using the business model Canva. So this kind of drawing here, where usually it's used for describing or even challenging your business model. So if you use that kind of Canva, let's see where data are produced. And if you go to the next slide, you will see that most of the data are produced, well, first of all, by your key activities. That's normal. If you're a broadcaster, your broadcast activity will generate a lot of data. If you're a news provider, the fact that exposing the news and the content will generate a lot of data, and the interaction with your consumer will generate a lot of data as well. The customer relationship management system will provide you a lot of data about how this data is consumed and about your user. And of course, the distribution channels will offer you data. So the next step then will be to collect data. And that's not so easy. Here, I just put a square with data collection and it looks easy, but you will see in the challenge section that actually it's not so easy. And there are many challenges for collecting correctly the data. The next step, once you collect the data, will be to consider data as an asset. And this is not so straightforward, because that means that you are able to organize your data, well, and that's main data management and data governance, to be sure that you can leverage and you can consider your data as an asset. And once you did that, well, you can use this data asset to build your models, your machine learning models. And what will be the main objective of those models? The next slide, you can see that. Yeah, the next one, please. Well, the first direct consequence will be, of course, to lower the cost. How to do the same things as before, but at lower cost. And that will be, and that's when we see that our main of our customer have that first objective. However, lowering the cost doesn't create value as such. So most of them go to the second level of maturity for using models. It's increasing revenue. That means basically doing the same things as before, but better targeting your customer, better selling your product, better improving your sales cycle. That's really increasing revenue thanks to different models you can put in place. And the third level of maturity is where you can then think about how using these kind of models for reinventing your business. And that means reusing data of your core business for generating value either outside of your core business or close to your core business. And this is where then you can start thinking about disrupting. But for doing that, you will have a few challenges, especially here when we speak about media and entertainment. The first one, as I told you, is data management, and especially here, data collection and creation. The fact that, well, today, when we speak about data collection, that means potentially multi-screen data collection in real time and batch. So there are plenty of technical issue of collecting data. Of course, nothing is impossible. This is kind of things we're used to do. But from a technology point of view, there are many different ways to do that. And the cost of the solution could be a key differentiator here. The qualification of the data is also important. Well, you can stay on the first slide if you want to change one. Yeah, sorry for that. The curation here and qualification of the data is also important here, because let's take the simple example of the reviews for a restaurant. If you have a restaurant where you have a lot of negative reviews, is it because the people who has been delighted by the restaurant didn't put their review, or because simply the restaurant is really, really bad? So this is somehow getting the unbiased the data from what you get, and that's not easy. If you would like to guarantee somehow the fairness and transparency on your model, you need to be sure that the data are well representing what you would like to model. And this is the kind of things you need to do when you collect the data as well. And the last step in this data management challenge is, once you have collected all the data, what kind of data governance you can put in place for guaranteeing that you are able to identify personal data and non-personal data. The second challenge is about the hyper-personalization across media. We got an overview in the previous talk about this kind of multi-modal recommendation, where you have media based on text, videos, and or even TV or other format, and you need to provide a recommendation on those media. For this, there is of course a technical challenge, but also an ethical challenge. The technical challenge is, well, what kind of algorithm will be able to take into account this different modality for representing correctly the media and being able to make the recommendation. But that's perfectly doable today. We have plenty of methods for doing that. Still improvement, but we have plenty of methods. For the ethical challenge, that's another story. Just to give you an example, well, a few weeks ago, I was doing a simple research on YouTube on flat Earth. And the fact is that I came back maybe 2 times in 3 days looking for information about flat Earth. The result is that the week after, I was crowded of recommendation about flat Earth debate, people, demonstrating that Earth is really flat. And this is interesting, because that means that I received some recommendation, but somehow these recommendations are confirming the bias I have. This is interesting because this is clearly the limit between recommendation and influence, recommending or influencing. And where is the limits? Where do you start influencing people by putting a lot of things related to a topic, sometimes not taking a step back on what you recommend? Or are you really influencing or really recommending by informing and being sure that the people receiving the recommendation is aware that there are other viewpoints of the content of your comments? That's a really interesting challenge here. And of course, the last one is about diffusion. We got in the previous talk some explanation about the generative models, and that's clearly the way to go in that area. I can cite you this example of this model that have been learning about how to write stories. And if you give to this model the first 10 pages of Harry Potter, it will generate a story very similar but very different and very original, based on what you learned about how to create story. If you mix that with the fact that your segment of consumer, the kind of things they like, the kind of things they consume, you could be able to generate content according to their personal taste. And that's very important, because that's changing a lot. You are able now to produce or even to generate content, whether it's video, movie, or even program, that are really dependent on the segments that you have, or even the people that you have, depending on what you can generate. And today we are at the stage where the AI is capable to do that. Yeah, so That means that achieving your ambition means that if you come back to what we said at the beginning, next slide, please. You want to inform, innovate, delight. But that means as well that actually we can build knowledge thanks to data rather than informing. Next slide, please. Rather than informing, we can educate people. We can educate and going forward than just inform. We can disrupt rather than innovate. And you can commit your consumer rather than delight. You can even engage your consumer. And I think that this is something that is critical today, how each consumer can be an ambassador for you. How can you make people committed to what you deliver and engaging them actually with your content strategy. And of course, all of these things should be done by respecting the right use of data and respecting the law. And that means all the architecture you need to put in place to be sure that you are processing data legally. You are, when you have data acquisition, you are pretty sure that you have the right legal basis for this data acquisition. You need to get the complete lineage of this legal basis where you're using data. So there are many different things to put in place to be sure that your data is used in the right way and in a legal way. And well, once we do that, that means that we can go a step even further. On the next slide, you can see that if we come back on the ecosystem, if you start distributing your data or exchanging data with other parties in this ecosystem, and if other parties start exchanging data with you, well, we end up with a data ecosystem, and that's much more richer. Still, yet, of course, you need to put in place a lot of things for guaranteeing that the GDPR is still respected. But that can end up by an ecosystem for sharing data and for helping other parties in this ecosystem to disrupt their own business model. And that's something that other domains have already done in the past. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Sabri. Thank you for this very deep understanding of data. I think that was really good even to end the presentations, you know, going deeper about the data and the understanding of how it is important to collect the right data and to use properly the data. So before going to the question times, because we do have a few questions for our speakers, I will show you a video, or is it Casper?
I will show it, Deborah, no problem.
Can you show the video? Thank you. Yeah. And it's a 3-minute video. It has been done by NetBit Live, and it's a virtual studio production using AI, and they're gonna explain us why it is innovative. Let's go.
Les grosses productions hollywoodiennes peuvent s'offrir aujourd'hui des studios à la pointe de la technologie, où les écrans verts ou bleus habituels sont remplacés par des énormes écrans LED et on traque la caméra en 3D.
Les studios virtuels que nous avons mis au point sont sensiblement moins chers que ce que Hollywood a mis au point, ce qui permet évidemment d'offrir nos solutions à des studios européens dont les budgets sont quand même généralement moins élevés que les budgets américains.
Alors que le monde de la publicité et des vidéos d'entreprise auraient beaucoup à gagner de ce genre de technologie.
Grâce à notre recherche et développement, nous avons créé des solutions nettement plus flexibles. Ces solutions permettent entre autres d'utiliser des caméras stéréoscopiques 3D, ce qui ne se faisait pas jusqu'à présent.
Ça nous permet d'avoir une ouverture à l'immersion encore plus importante.
Et c'est l'énorme effort de recherche et développement qui nous a permis de créer un certain nombre de brevets sur ce type de concept.
Nous avons travaillé les interfaces et l'ergonomie cognitive de nos solutions intégralement, dans le but de rendre l'accès et l'utilisation ultra clair et ultra facilité. Alors l'objectif, c'est pas de remplacer des métiers hautement qualifiés, mais d'offrir des accompagnements technologiques automatisés pour tous les projets et pour tous les budgets. Nous avons par exemple réalisé un simulateur en ligne où les utilisateurs peuvent se connecter, uploader leurs médias, modifier et configurer tous leurs besoins en termes de lumière, de mouvement caméra, d'interactivité, de timing, et directement visualiser ce que ça donnera le jour où ils viendront. Une fois dans le studio, ils pourront retrouver tous leurs presets et leur travail mis en place pour pouvoir commencer directement la captation d'images.
Nos solutions permettent d'utiliser ces studios XR dans un champ nettement plus large que ce qui était possible jusqu'ici, et en particulier de l'étendre jusqu'au Metaverse. Et donc ces studios sont maintenant multi-usages plutôt que d'avoir une seule fonction.
Donc on peut directement décider de soit en sortir une vidéo, soit de faire du live dans un univers virtuel, soit de faire un live ou des vidéos dans le Metaverse directement.
Et ça, c'est une véritable révolution aujourd'hui.
So we have José with us, who can talk about for 2 minutes about his support to Belgian producers. José, we listen to you. I will give you 2 minutes because afterwards we need to answer some questions from the public. Thank you.
It's all right. I think the video we showed speaks more than 1,000 words, hopefully. Basically, most of the virtual studios that are produced today are virtual studios that are produced with LED walls, LED floors, and LED ceilings. All in all, if you want to have a valid studio in that kind of realization, you need close to 1,000 screens, which cost about $15 million. Whereas the solution that we are talking about is using Barco projectors, which is a very Belgian solution, to be honest. And those Belgian solutions allow us to work at a fraction of the cost of the Hollywood studios. And not only that, but instead of using standard cameras where we have some AI algorithms that allow for the tracking of the various scenes that we are filming, we can use 3D stereoscopic cameras that would allow us to film 3D movies on site, allowing for a much better sense of integration of the various actors inside their virtual decor. Certainly, from the moment that the decor actually appears as a realistic 3D environment instead of just being a flat 2D environment. So that will allow to create more, cheaper content, and so allow for teams of European independent creators to fight with the same weapons as the American producers.
Thank you so much, José. So it was really good also to have something concrete to show to the public of what we develop in Belgium. Innovative, creative, we are. Now I will give the floor to Bart and show the last slide that we had, which is the breakthrough or potential topics that we highlight in our group. Do you see my screen or not? Oh, I'm not sure. Wait a second. Here it is. Here it is. Bart, do you want to make a small talk on this slide or open the floor to question and then we come back to the slide?
I'll quickly talk about it and then we can come to questions. Based on the different presentations we had, there's a couple of domains or breakthrough topics that we'd like to address in the work group. One is based on AI for news, so everything related to automation, verification, AI-supported journalism. That's one big element. The second one is related to AI metaverse, but also the everything that Sven talked about, everything that's related to creative economy. So here it's a lot of metaverse, Web3 related, AR, and especially or AR in the beginning and afterwards VR. There's a lot to do about AI for languages, so speech and language technologies. And then we have the 3 topics that are related to production. And I think elements of production and innovating on that, like José, is an interesting element to look at that we certainly have to promote. One of the things that we'd like to do is think about how AI can impact, but also how that we can, from the group, support all kind of innovations from Belgium through the different groups that we're connected to. And then there's AI for retrieval and everything related to personalization. So large batch archiving, but also producing customized media and all types of transmedia that Deborah also talked about at an early element. So these are the some of the groups that we will start exploring and seeing how we can build AI innovation from that element. And in terms of timing, I think it's on the next slide, Deborah. So we started thinking about it a couple of months ago. Today it's announcing, and for everybody who's interested, work group starts in June, and the goal is to have some form of conference related to all kind of media initiated innovation in Q4. We'll try to regroup and so that everybody can have a good exposure and opportunities to evolve and share knowledge, but also to promote new projects to the asset world. But more on that later. So basically the next step is from now until June, we'll determine the different task forces and work groups. And then in June, we start producing work. I see already Thierry nodding next to me, ready to jump in already.
Who is ready to jump in?
Thierry next to me, he says that we have to push it even earlier. But,
even early. Okay.
Let's start in June. I don't know if you want to add something, Deborah.
Well, the main objective of this launch was really to see what we could do together, and also receive the feedback of the speakers here in the group about the potential topics we could work on, and we will have some feedbacks anyway also in the future, in the coming days. But if I can ask first from the speakers if you have a feedback about this specific slide, that could be very useful. If someone wants to add something, and then I have 2 questions for the speakers. Sabri, Sven, I don't know, I can't see all of you, so. So if we don't have feedback immediately, that's fine. I will ask a question to Sven that we received from the public. So Sven, this is the question. I'm sorry, I have to find I think you received a question, huh?
I think I did, yeah.
I just have to find it. Casper, can you send it back to me, please? I have it.
Is it have you used AI-based tools for content creation?
Yes. So the question is the following. Have you used AI-based tools for content creation in your professional practice, and which ones? And did you find them helpful?
Well, in my professional practice, we use them quite a lot. I think especially the tools for automatic subtitling or automatic translation of content or of video content are very easy, and there are actually a great number of them. So it actually ranges from using the YouTube algorithm to translate or subtitle content, but there are also specific ones. And what is also an interesting one for us to use is we use speech to text tools that are we very often create video and podcasting content in the same time. But in order to make the process of editing a lot more faster or easier. We use the actual transcription of the texts. We use the tool which is called Sonics for that. And we use that as a basic tool to make sure, okay, we want to keep this piece and we want to keep this piece, and we can link it and we can patch them together in this way. It can be done a lot easier than if you need to scroll to all your video content or through all your audio content. So it's a simple trick on transcribing it and then make your editing a lot easier or quicker, and the translation as well. For personalization, we also did a couple of campaigns, for instance, where we needed to, we as an agency, we work for the European Parliament, for example, and very often we create content for them that is used on social media, but then we need it in 25 languages. Which is quite a lot of a headache if you need to translate it automatically. Or by hand. So then again, we use this type of tools to make it easy. And there are a great number of tools out there. They vary from Veed, which is a very simple tool, which is very cheap actually, until more specified platforms, which are also created for, let's say, higher production studios, like the people who are also part of this discussion.
Thank you, Sven. Anyway, you can contact Sven, I mean, the person who had this question, and other people, you can contact all the speakers. Also, you have all the details on the Eventbrite program, the contact detail. Here you have the contact detail of Bart and myself, and I have a last question. Bart said that, I mean, he emphasizes that media will have a more and more important role and will be used more and more, so AI also. So I had a very interesting question from someone based in Rome who asked how AI can support and create opportunities for developing countries. I don't know if someone feels comfortable answering this question. Bart, do you have a, not a thorough answer, but...
And what do you mean exactly? Sorry.
Well, how can we support and create opportunities for developing countries using AI as a tool that will, you know, bring development and progress in countries who need it? Because it's a tool for democracy if it's well used.
Yeah, there's a couple of things, or that I think of at least. There's two ways of looking at AI in media. It's a bit comparable to healthcare. Do you see AI as a way to replace some of the intermediaries, or do you see it as a tool to enhance things? And in healthcare, more and more, AI has become something where the end practitioner or the professionals remain in charge, but you use it for diagnose, for projection, elements like that. And you see that in media, that's already certainly the case. So automatic tools that help to reach that. Now, there's also, if you look at developing countries, or what more and more called widening countries, I think that media and democracy are more and more interwoven. If we look at what's happening now, in the Ukraine, but also Belarus and Russia itself. But we shouldn't look that far, because we could say the same about Hungary or some parts of Italy as well. So where media independence is often very much linked to democratic behavior or democratic level in some countries. And I believe that detecting misinformation and allowing people to communicate freely is really crucial. There's one of actually a Belgian company, Maarten Schenk is the guy who founded it, who is one of the leading organizations in Europe in terms of detecting fake news and disinformation on a European level. It's one of the main algorithms used on Facebook, and now he's also doing it on preparing it for other platforms. And if we could facilitate that and kind of help developing countries to use tools, that would be, I think, a major win with Euractiv. Euractiv is a media network that is focusing on policy news. We, for example, we work now with Kiev Independent. So in Ukraine, there's only 6 independent media that are still alive, and it goes from explaining them what EU membership can mean. It's helping them with tools to keep communicating. And I think there's a lot of, we're only starting, I think we only understood now how precarious the situation on media and democracy has become. And so regrouping that and doing things there is going to be crucial going forward.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Bart. So it's very, very meaningful actually to work on this issue. Well, the last question, because we have to finish in 1 minute, is from Octavio from UNESCO. Maybe he's in Argentina. I don't know where he's based now, but Octavio Pulesh is with us now. I'm quite happy to see him. And he has a question. Octavio?
Hi, hello, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. Hello, well, thank you very much for all the presentations. I wonder if you could say something about the future in terms of the potential concentration of income that AI could bring. You know, big tech are the most powerful companies in the AI field. And so what is the world we are heading to in terms of concentration?
So this is more from a business perspective?
Yeah, exactly. In terms of the cultural industries, for example.
Yeah, yeah. Who could answer this question?
I can say some. I know. Go ahead, Fran.
Yeah. Of course, I need to be, let's say, from a real cultural perspective. It really depends on if the application of tools is democratized enough, it could have a positive effect on, let's say, redistribution and less concentration in general. And as I'm correct, but I'm pretty sure that Bart knows a lot more about that. I know that the European Union is working on a directive on the way AI is used in business in general. And it really depends on how, I suppose, how governments will be using or limiting, let's say, concentration in itself, to make sure that it can be for the benefit of all. But maybe Bart can comment on that as well.
Yeah, I think it's one of the main, or it's a big concern in terms of, let's call it tech or platform sovereignty. It's one of the key points at EU level. It started a bit, it's strange to say that 20 years ago, and you had these titles of Nokia and Ericsson, who will ever do something to these guys in terms of mobile communication, to know now that everything has left. And it's the case with media distribution or digital distribution, but it's the same for energy distribution or financial means distribution, basically. And at the EU level, at least, there's a couple of initiatives that are being taken. Two main ones. One is called the EU News, where for the first time they're adding the media industry in what used to be Horizon 2020. It's called Horizon Europe now, where media organizations also can have specific funding for developing tools related to journalism. So I think that's a major change already. Also because a lot of the media groups and journalism-driven groups do a lot better in terms of business model, especially in Belgium. If you look at the Belgian groups, they basically acquired all the Dutch publications and doing a really good group internationally. And the second one that I know quite well is European Innovation Council. So European Innovation Council has now approved a budget of 10 billion to invest in everything that is related to deep tech startups. So I think that's a quite sizable budget because it invests in early stage deep tech startups with a certain tech component. And here we are, of course, talking about certain tech components for media and news industries. And I have to say, I'm only on the board of the European Innovation Council since 2 months. But if I see the impact and the decision fastness that is there, that is really great. Everything that is EU is often a bit seen. In the past, they used to say US innovates, China imitates, and Europe regulates. But I think that for the first time, regulation might be a positive thing to support tech and also media sovereignty in a constructive way. I think there's nothing wrong with promoting our own companies and our own initiatives a bit more. And that is currently being done.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to go to the next session. So I will thank all of you. So I will thank Thierry Dutoit, Sven, José, Alessandro, Cathy Bren, Octavio Kulesh, who is with us, and Sabri Sikri from Oranova. So thank you all of you for your time and sharing with us your knowledge. You can rewatch the video on the social media. It will be available, I think, tomorrow. And now you can stay with us and go to the next session, which is...
And thank you, Deborah.
On va droit dans le mur. Luc, Julia, on va droit dans le mur. Voilà. So that looks really interesting. Thank you so much and see you very soon. Don't hesitate to contact us, Bart or Deborah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Take care.